Anyway, enough of that silliness. So House Bill 563, which passed through North Carolina's House side of the General Assembly last year, originally was set at 200 milligrams in the aggregate of all cannabinoids. Shortly before the session ended, it went down to 3, which is a unique bargaining chip. Right now, as it sits and as it's been introduced in the Senate, it is 50 milligrams per serving of Delta 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the aggregate, with a limit set on vapes at 3 milliliters. 3 milliliters. I always want to say grams, but yeah, 3 milliliters. So that's where we are in North Carolina right now, and hope to use that as model legislation across the country.
To jump into things real quick, I mean, Nick, I'm going to skip you because I think we got you down a little bit. Philip, you too. Josh, who are you? Why are you here? What do you do? And then, professionally and for the association.
Sure. So my name's Josh. I'm the president of the South Carolina Healthy Alternatives Association, but I own TerpFusion, which is one of the leading private label companies. So make a bunch of gummies and vapes and source packaging and help people grow their businesses through that, right? Got a few other businesses too, but that's the main one. And then with the association is trying to get reasonable bills passed, like what happened in Tennessee and North Carolina, right? So engaging with, fundraising, that's a really big part of it. Engaging with our lobbyists, who then engage with lawmakers and help us have conversations to better educate a really conservative state about our hemp products, and try to get a reasonable bill passed before some sort of bad bill comes in. It's a proactive approach to trying to get a reasonable bill passed in the state.
Didn't you have a lot of problems with local? Did you guys have a lot of problems with Greenville in particular?
Yes.
That's kind of how it all came about.
For sure, yeah. So the fire was lit in the state about 4 months ago. There was I don't know how long ago. It was about a year ago. A guy got in trouble. He was receiving THCA flower in the mail, and it got intercepted, and then he got in a bunch of trouble for that. It tested hot at the state lab, and then they seized everything, and so he's still dealing with that. But what kind of got everyone really caught up on this is about 3-4 months ago, the solicitor in Greenville County did a press conference where I quote, he said, "If it gets you high, it's illegal in South Carolina." So that was a little freaky, and then for about a week he was going and our law enforcement division, which is called SLED, was going around to shops in Greenville saying, "Hey, this is what we think the law is, and we just are going to make up some rules, and you need to follow them," which wasn't cool. So everyone was freaked out. They still are freaked out, to be honest. I mean, sales just dropped dramatically in South Carolina, especially in Greenville County, and they're going up, but people are really scared they're going to get their door kicked down, which is really unique because there's no legislation. The fears in South Carolina is getting your door kicked down over misinterpretation of federal law, not like what's going on in Florida where you've got a bad bill and you're trying to get rid of it. So it was a unique approach. So some great minds got together, like these guys right here, and we proactively took the North Carolina bill for the most part, copy and pasted it, and then hired a bunch of really smart and well-connected lobbyists to try to get this going. So we got our first traction on the bill. It's 4628. We actually attached it to the medical cannabis bill, but it's 4628, I think is the bill number, something like that. Had our first hearing. Now it's the off-season of session. It just ended on Thursday, or last Thursday, and now it's taking the time to educate assembly members on what hemp products are, because they have no earthly idea about what this industry is. It's just whatever they see on the news or hear about or whatever. So it's a really unique approach, but we're taking the proactive stance of let's get a bill passed now before somebody else goes and says, "Oh, this stuff's awful," and they try to do a 0 million, a complete ban or something along that line.
Yeah, and after doing it for the past 2 years, it's great to see people get involved. You in Alabama as well back there, and everything going on. It's great to see more people getting proactive and actually doing something and not just sitting aside and be like, okay, well, let's move to a different state or something of that nature.
Leo, what do you do?
I'm the North Carolina president chapter. JD called me probably, he was a client of ours at Canna Aid about 2 years ago, and he expressed what he was doing in Florida, and I've just been an activist for cannabis pretty much my whole life. And once I saw what he was doing and I saw what was happening in North Carolina with our pilot program expiring, essentially making even CBD products illegal, just started the state chapter with JD's help, and he's just been helping us along the way. And the past 2 years have been flying by, and now North Carolina seems like it's going to be one of the better states to do work with. So definitely appreciate everything that JD has done for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, JD. You know, Mike.
Give me your mic back.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really great point. So up here today, no kidding, Nick Patrick was the first person from another state that reached out to me. Leo, right next to me, was shortly thereafter. And the dichotomy or the difference in how both of those states played out with the same level of effort and time and even money put into those two different states, seeing how they played out differently because one has recreational cannabis and one does not have cannabis, and watching how those kind of spheres of influence affected the trajectory of the hemp industry. I think to their credit and to everyone who's a part of our organization, everyone is doing this, fighting for their lives, and we're all volunteers, so it's just amazing. And now, because Lee got engaged, in the process 2.5 years ago, we're possibly going to have model legislation that will be the first of its kind in the cannabis industry that will literally set the playing field and stop monopolies from taking over.
All right, that's fantastic. Just to speak to that a little bit, living in a recreational cannabis state, it's very difficult for them to not want to make every move possible to protect their monopoly. And so I think it's important, if you live in one of these majority blue recreational cannabis states, to have conversations with your lawmakers about economic liberty, about personal freedom, and because I think that's the only way you win in those states. It's a very difficult argument to win, and oftentimes requires resorting to lawsuits, which you don't want to do. It's the last resort. You never want to be viewed as litigious. If you can avoid that, it's a good thing. So as somebody who was, I think it was the House leader was talking about being proactive, it's super important, especially if you see recreational cannabis coming in your state, to be proactive. Because it just goes, anytime there's recreational cannabis on a ballot, you see the subsequent preliminary decimation of the hemp industry in that state. So it's important to be proactive.
Yeah, the other couple weeks ago at NOCO Hemp Expo, we had the governor of Colorado speaking, and I got to survive, but all the retailers are illegal. They have to sell the products through a dispensary, and he said we did the best we could do. And when the most powerful guy of the state says that in front of a group of 200 people or so, you have to realize that this is a process, and there's not one single person that can put this all together. And thanks to all our state chapter presidents and JD for making sure that we have built this kind of group of people where we get to bounce ideas off of us, because not one person can do it on their own. And the only way for us to survive is to band together. And again, special thanks to Champs, because this will be a platform that will be live streaming and videoing and disseminating, and to the people in the live audience, we'll be able to join it, hopefully the next mini Champs, essentially, so that we can continue to educate people and bring in these industry experts, because I think this is the first time that the industry has really been able to speak up. I mean, I speak up in Zynga and some of these cannabis shows, but I'm in enemy territory, so I'm happy to do it because it's kind of fun. But it's I think this is the first time that we've really had a friendly consumer-facing trade show, if you will, platform us, and it is important for people to understand that there are people fighting for your freedoms. We are volunteers, and I would even say that and everyone up here is probably more than a volunteer. I don't know how expensive this hobby is, but it's expensive.
I know.
And thank God I still have my hair. But it is stressful. Hey, I'm not speaking for y'all, I'm speaking for me. It is stressful, and sometimes it does feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. So, again, thanks to Champs, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do these. And with that, you have, I guess 6 state presidents out of the association. If there's any questions left over, please ask them. I want Nick to ask a question just because he just walked up. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah. So what can retailers do to technically help make sure in their specific local jurisdictions that hemp regulations don't get put into place that can hurt their business?
Perfect. I'm probably gonna pitch this over to Leo. The question is what can hemp retailers do to ensure that state regulations don't come in and put them out of business? And this is a good question for Nick too, I think.
Signing up for our association is definitely going to be one of the best ones. We have a roundup program where consumers can round up to the nearest dollar, and all that puts into the fund so we can pay our lobbyists and do fundraising, campaign efforts. This stuff isn't cheap. We're all digging out our own pockets here, and it really takes a joint effort for everybody in the industry to be united and come together and really just fight for everything. So it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time. So really we need a lot more people. If we had every retailer and signed up, we would have hemp legalized in every state.
Can you explain the roundup program just a little bit more so that I can clip it in future and use it?
Yeah. So the roundup program is basically a program we put into the retailer store. They have a point of sale system, and it's a line item. So that it's just like when you go to the grocery store. You get guilt tripped. Hey, you want to donate to the thing. So basically, you just round up to the next dollar, and it really makes a difference. Each store has about 100 people coming in, 50 cents a day. That's $50 a day. Each store, you see a vape store, a CBD dispensary on every block. So there's a lot of funds that could be generated and be useful. We wouldn't be in this position in Florida if we had more retailers, more distributors helping and fighting this. All the manufacturers are obviously here doing this, but the retailers and distributors, we kind of have a gap there. And even on a consumer side, we have a $10 program. It gets you newsletters, keeps you updated, lets you know what you can do. Discounts as well. You get discounts from manufacturing brands with the Consumer Pass. So that's definitely recommend just spreading the word and joining the association. Just like NRA, everyone has an association that helps fight for their hobbies or whatever they do that helps benefit them. This is cannabis, so we're here to help people.
If I could add one thing to that, as a retailer and somebody who tried extraordinarily hard to fundraise to fight what happened in Maryland, you have to let the retailers know that the threat is real, right? Because oftentimes they don't think it's real. They think, oh, somebody else will take care of it. It's going to be fine until they get shut down, and then it's game over. So you have to let and one thing also as a retailer, when you have a common enemy, like the fact that you're competitors, that stuff's got to go out the window. You have to begin to really form these coalitions and start looking out for one another and create a spirit of unity, because we are sharing a common enemy. Sure, we might sell the same stuff and we might be competing, but if the law passes, we're both out of business. So there's a real need to let, particularly the smoke shops in Maryland, we've self-funded, thank God for JD and these guys. We would have been done for, because the retailers in Maryland, they didn't give us a single solitary red cent to fight this thing, yet and still they made all the money. You're talking about these are the guys that are making millions and millions of dollars. Some of them own 17, 18, 20, 30 stores and didn't give us a single solitary dollar because they didn't believe the threat was real until the state agent showed up at the store and said, pull the product or it's $5,000. So I think it's important that we let people know how real the threat is when it happens, and you need to find people within those communities that are, for example, in Maryland, there's a lot of smoke shops that are owned by a lot of families. You have to get to somebody inside there and make them a friend, and get to everybody else. Because the retailers are the key to this thing, and they're also the ones that donate the least amount of money. It's crazy.
If I may, I think there's a really useful example for this, and I think it unfortunately came out of Florida. Being in a foxhole with you last legislative session and again this year, great reform was passed in Florida last year. Really positive changes, things that did wonderful things for the hemp industry, certainly within that state, but also more broadly from a national perspective. And what happened when those changes went into effect is everybody went home. Everybody put their head in in the sand. Everybody turned a blind eye to what might come next. And certainly if I'm down the street from you and we sell the same products or maybe similar products, whatever the case is, instead of focusing on that turf war, 7 days a week, maybe focus on it only 6 days a week and realize that on that 7th day, you need to come together and fight that common enemy that Nick was just talking about. Because if you don't fight it, and if you're not fighting it constantly, you will get swept by the wayside. And I think the important thing for retailers to understand is, they are meaningful. They can make significant contributions, whether it's in the form of Leo's line item that is just a simple roundup program, or actual hundreds, thousands of dollars, whatever the case may be. Because again, if I'm down the street from you and we're selling the same things, I would much rather have 80% of something than 100% of nothing. And if you turn a blind eye, you're going to end up with 100% of nothing, regardless of whether you own 30 stores or 3. And you just can't ignore it. I mean, this is a real fight that isn't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, no, it's a great example. One that I would point to, and I think this is indicative of why Champs and some of these other trade shows have really been paying attention recently. The state of Georgia went after kratom, hemp, and nicotine in 3 separate bills, all at the exact same time. State legislatures.
It's a fun week.
Oh, it was a fun 60 days. State legislatures can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. They have several different committees, all dedicated to different issues, whether it's fiscal policy, it's judicial, it's healthcare. These committees, are the think tanks or the laboratories of democracy where our future is decided. And if the smoke shop industry and the vape shop industry and the hemp-only store industry and all of these folks don't come together and recognize that we're all in this alternative product space together, and if we don't stand up and fight together, we're going to lose everything, right? Kratom is coming out with a new product, and the legislatures are laser focused on that, and then hemp comes out with a new product, and then they're laser focused on that, and then they're just going to continuously come after us. And I think if we think they're not paying attention to us, we are sorely mistaken. I have been awestruck at how smart some of these legislators are. Now, it might not be all 250 of them, but certainly 3, 4, 5, and some of the most influential.
It only takes a couple of them.
I'm telling you, and that it spreads like a cancer. That some of the policy makers that pay attention to these specific issues, they know everything. They might know about a video that got posted 2 years ago where we were present, we discussed an issue, and they've come up with a whole new argument on how to beat us and how to regulate our industry in a different way that hurts our economic interests. So I think that it's really important to pay attention as a whole. It's, to your point as a retailer, you might sell 70% nicotine, 20% hemp, 10% kratom. You might have some variance in those percentages, but if you lose hemp, there goes 50% of your bottom line. If you lose nicotine, there goes 90% of your bottom line. You lose kratom, and maybe kratom, I know some guys that's the majority of their revenue, some of these kava bars, etc. You lose kratom, and there goes your whole business. I mean, it really is an ecosystem of alternative products that, companies like Champs, represent as a whole, and all of us need to be fighting tooth and nail for every inch. So, yeah.
You have to think about joining associations like this. JD told me one time, and I use it in almost every conversation when I'm trying to raise money. It's insurance for your business. You have insurance for your car, you have insurance for your health, you have insurance for all types of stuff. They got insurance for lawyers, right? Legal Shield. They sell $40 a month. You got a lawyer whenever you need one. The Healthy Alternatives Association is insurance for the future of your business. You have to have somebody out there fighting for you, and so it's important to do that. None of us get paid up here to do this. All the money goes to pay lobbyists and lawyers, and everything else required to keep this stuff legal, keep us all making money.
And that's why we, Nutraceuticals does it, because it literally is insurance. I mean, we back the association, and we have our own lobbyists, and we, I help JD as much as I can, but at the end of the day, it's all it is insurance, because if you're not in that room, you're probably going to get screwed. Yep. And that's just the reality. It doesn't matter if it's a red state, a blue state, whatever state it is. is, you probably will get screwed eventually if you don't have someone that has your back, or at least someone to monitor the situation.
I've got a different perspective, which I think is a powerful one. What's the economic impact of hemp this year? What was it, 24 billion?
It was 28 billion.
Right, so that's pretty much proof that this is a legitimate, real industry, just like other industries, right? And if you drive, I know South Carolina, if you drive down Gervais Street in Columbia, pretty much all those offices there are associations, just like this. The Light Bulb Association, the Petroleum Association, the Packaged Chicken Association, who knows, right?
Dairy farmers.
Yeah, dairy, yeah, right. And I think that smoke shop owners, especially that I've talked to in the state, need to realize this is a real industry that solves real problems for consumers. And when all those industries, the people that are a part of it give money to keep their best interests and keep things alive for the state, or for their state federally. And if people look at it, except hemp's not going away anytime soon. This is a $24 billion industry. It's the fourth largest industry in Florida or something like that. What's it, right?
It's close, yeah.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like when you look at it like that, sugar gives $1 billion a year. Corn gives billions of dollars a year to keep their best interest. Just like what we're doing with the Farm Bill, they're spending the same amount and have a lot more power, right? So when you look at yourself as a legitimate business, I've got 30-something employees who are living their American dream off of, buying houses, et cetera, right? When you look at yourself like that and you realize the importance of what you give, just like you're a legit industry that isn't just as new and kind of blew up immediately, it makes you more proud to give that money to make a difference. So just wanted to share that.
I'll tell you what, I came to this conclusion several months ago. It's almost like our industry has collective PTSD from 100 years of prohibition.
Yep. Many
people being arrested, many people going to jail for selling cannabis, et cetera, being around cannabis. That collective PTSD, I've talked to some legislators and they say that our industry hides, right? The smoke shop owners, the people that operate the companies, like we're not participating enough. And although we may be a $28 billion industry, I think that kind of collective PTSD really has an effect on how we operate in the legislature.
It's a huge point. That's a huge point. The way that the industry is viewed,
That's
the optics.
Yeah.
Of how, especially how.
We're charges for selling Charlotte's Web 0 THC CBD kind of puts us where we don't want to put ourselves out there. I was told before.
That's a fair point. I had my health authority in 18 months ago, and they tried to take all my stuff. Luckily, I moved my stuff. So, I've been there, and then they had to come in and apologize, and there was a law that was put into place, and they kind of got put in their spot. But it's a good point. I've unfortunately had to put my neck out there because I want to educate people, but at the same time, someone's got to do it. So who's going to do it? Obviously, the people up on the stage have done it. Stacey, you've done it with the fight that you're fighting. At the end of the day, we can't outbreak clandestine anymore, and they can't come after all of us. And I say that hopefully my attorney protects me.
I fell on the sword for the industry in Maryland, which is why I had a Texas-sized target on my back for the enforcement. You don't have to be the guy or the lady or whoever that shows up and gives an impassioned, testimony. Just give your money, right? Like that's what we're here for, right? So like, what we have to do is it's okay to be scared and to want to hide. A lot of the smoke shop, they want to hide. They don't want the publicity. They don't want their name or anything. That's all right. Just stroke the check because it costs us money to keep everyone in business, right? So,
And not to put too fine a point on it, but the phrase "just stroke the check" certainly doesn't imply that you don't know what you're doing, and we're not pretending to say that you don't have a voice in what's happening. However, I think collectively there's 6 people on here that probably have at least 30 years of political acumen that have been playing this game for that long. There are people that know how to play this game. There are people that know how to get you into certain meetings. As Bret said earlier, if you're not in those rooms, you're going to fall victim to some very unfortunate circumstances. So, when Nick says just stroke the check, it means put the money in the hands of people that know what they're doing in order to get into those right conversations, in order to effectuate positive change, whether that be on the local, the state, or the federal level. Because realistically, politics, the strategy that goes into this, the nuances that are part of it, you know, it's an art of war. I can't put it any more simply than that. And so, you know, there's a reason why when my car doesn't sound right, I take it to a mechanic. When I don't know how to play politics, I talk to a lobbyist. And I think that that's more of the value that comes from stroking that check or that roundup or something like that is, you know, allowing, you know, empowering associations or people that work for them, whether that be on the state or federal level, you know, to do their jobs. You know, every single one of us has a job in this room. I'm willing to bet that there's something we're all really, really good at, but something else that takes our time away from that. And we'd rather focus on the thing that we're really, really good at. So by stroking that check, it allows the association to, you know, empower the people that are really, really good at this in order to make big, big changes. So I just wanted to add that really quickly.
And we have made some big changes too. Tennessee, Kentucky,
Huge.
fight in Florida, North South Carolina, Georgia, recent federal government. So, you know, the association actually has a very good track record, not to toot our own horn, but I'll toot my horn though as well. You know, we've done very well and been very effective. I think we get outspent 100 to 1 roughly by marijuana is my made up number that I came up with in Missouri. I think they paid $2.5 million. And we probably paid $75,000. So, and we might actually win. So, our dollars are extremely effective. I would never give your money to a marijuana trade association. I don't know what they do with their money, but it's nothing good.
That's actually a really good point. So, you know, when I first got engaged in politics, you know, I had a retail store, and I didn't get into business to get into politics, but I certainly ended up there because I was scared I was going to lose my business, and I wanted to fight for it. You know, to Bret's point, whether that's a made-up number or not, there is an imbalance. Certainly our opposition has consolidated their money into one company, one vertically integrated, you know, supply chain, and they're able to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, where our association and many of the people that are members of it, we might be able to come up with 50,000, 100,000, 250,000 versus their millions, right? But the reality is everyone loves a David and Goliath story. And what you're looking at on this stage right now is 6 Davids. We are the small guys telling the story and fighting against monopolistic corporations. There's something uniquely American about that people believe in, they trust, they want the little guy to win. And I think we can do that together as an industry. And as this room starts to fill out, as we continue to do these and continue to have these platforms, we're going to win fights in glorious fashion. We've already won fights in glorious fashion, and no one knew about it. You know, I read an article in MJ Biz last week, and it was talking about the law that passed in Georgia. I worked with the legislators, the bill sponsors personally. I was in those rooms having those conversations, making sure that bill didn't destroy thousands of small businesses, and no one knows it. You know, it's like you have to really fight for yourself, and you have to back the people that know what they're doing. You have to fight for it. And if you're passionate enough and you really want to get involved, we're happy to welcome you into the inner circle, right? I don't think any one of us has ever told anyone they can't participate. Even if you just give a couple $100 and you want to
help. I can use it.
We need more help. If you just have some elbow grease and some free time and you want to participate, bring it on. We're here to take that. We need your help. We need your dollars, and we can win. We've done it before, you know. And I think there is no fight too big for us. Our industry and the people that have been the recipients of 100 years of prohibition deserve a chance at the table, deserve a seat at that table. So, thank you.
All right.
Woo! What do you think, Moderator?
I think that is our time here.
Cool.